Good afternoon, students. Welcome to my lecture. Today I am going to discuss. Let me recap the previous class topics for 10 minutes. In previous class, we have discussed about some of the general approaches for identifying the classes and objects, or general approaches for classifying the classes and objects. Let us see it. These are the general approaches for classification. First approach is classical categorization. In classical categorization, you are going to classify the classes according to some properties. Based on some properties, you are going to classify the classes. Okay. Let us see the example. Just see the example. Here, in classical categorization, see this train example. Here, what is the property I took? I took the property like this. Trains having black wheels. And I took another property, trains having only white wheels. And next, trains having black and white wheels. According to this property, I have what I did, I have classified these trains according to this property. Okay. In the same way, you need to classify the classes according based on some property. This is very simple example so that you will understand well. This is very simple example. Classical categorization. Here, based on some property only, you are going to classify the class, or you are going to group the classes. Why you have to classify these things? Because in order to simplify the problem, you need to classify the classes, all the related classes which exhibit the similar behavior, which share the properties. You need to identify it to simplify the problem. Next, these are general approaches. Okay, for classification, these are general approaches. What is the second approach? Conceptual clustering. In conceptual clustering, you are going to classify the problem. You are going to classify according to the, one second. Okay, just one second. Here you are going to classify according to the concept. You have to, here you are going to take some knowledge based on some knowledge, or based on some description, or based on some concept. You are going to classify the problem. Okay, let us see with an example. Let us see an example. One second. See, in conceptual clustering, what you are doing, taking the concept, or you are taking some knowledge. Just like this circle represents some toxic materials, and this rectangle represents some other materials, and all other shapes represent some passengers. That means here in the concept, you are taking some concept. In conceptual clustering, you are taking some concept. Based on that concept, you are going to classify the classes, or you are going to combine the classes. So here in this problem, you are taking like this. Classify the trains, whether the trains are carrying toxic goods or not. And classifying the trains, whether the trains are passengers trains or not. In this way, based on the concept, you are going to classify the problem, these trains. Okay. So here in conceptual clustering, here you can capture entire details. Okay, entire requirements will be captured. This is the best method. This is the best fit. Conceptual clustering. there are some disadvantages in what is that in classical approach or classical categorization. There are some disadvantages. It becomes very messy. Okay, it is not always satisfactory one. So here you are using conceptual clustering. Now next one is prototypal theory. Here when you will use prototypal theory, this approach, when here you are not able to classify the classes. Here you are not able to classify the classes based on some property or based on some concept. If you are unable to classify the classes based on some property or some concept, you will use prototype theory. Let us see it. See here. See, you cannot classify the games, right? Every game will have some certain properties, some different properties and different rules. Okay, but how can you classify them? Here you will use a prototype theory. If you are unable to classify the classes according to some property or according to the based on some concept, here you have to use prototype theory. Here what you are going to do is you are combining, you are classifying the classes based on resemblance of family. See the examples, chess and tiny barbs. These are different games, rules are different, but here you can see some similarities, right? See here, see this board, you have some similarities, right? So based on that resemblance, you are going to classify the classes. Again, see the example, another example, wrestling. This is a game, okay, wrestling game and kabaddi game, entirely different, but there are some similarities, right? Some fightings, something like that. So you can classify the wrestling game and kabaddi game into one group based on the resemblance. There is some resemblance, but all these are entirely different. Rules are different, everything are different, but there is some resemblance. Based on this resemblance, you are going to classify the classes. Okay, I hope you understood. These are the general approaches. Now let us see some proven approaches. In object-oriented analysis, these are some general approaches for classifying the problem or classifying the classes and objects. Now let us see some proven, already they are proven approaches in object-oriented analysis. Let us see it. See here, these are the some of the approaches in object-oriented analysis. In OA, object-oriented analysis, these are some proven approaches. Let us see it. One second. Let us see first one. First approach is classical approach. First approach in object-oriented analysis, proven approach. These are all proven approaches. First approach is classical approach. Here in classical approach, this approach is primarily driven from the classical categorization. Just now I have explained what is classical categorization. See this. Just now I have explained classical categorization. What is classical categorization? Here you are going to classify the problem according to some property. Based on some property, you are going to classify the classes. Here, this classical approach is driven from the principle of classical categorization. And see here in this approach, here classes and objects comes from the sources. You are identifying the classes and objects by considering these sources. From these sources, the classes and objects are coming. Let us see what are the sources. First one, tangible things. See, already I have explained what is meant by tangible. Tangible means which you can physically touch. Physically you can touch it. Those things are called tangible. Physically. Tangible means physically you can touch it. Physical things. So classes and objects are coming from these tangible things. Example, car, pressure sensors, CPU, all those things you can physically touch, right? So these classes, you are identifying the classes and objects by from tangible things. There may be non-tangible things also. There may be some non-tangible things. Non-tangible things means which you cannot physically touch. You cannot physically touch. Example, process executing in a software, process running in a software. What is meant by process? A program which is under execution is called process. Now you cannot touch the process, right? But yet the process is an object. You can consider as an object. So here the classes and objects you are identifying from these sources. Those are coming from these sources. Tangible things and non-tangible things. Example like CPU, car, all those things. Next, from the roles, you are identifying the objects and the classes from the roles also. You know that every object will have some roles, like, right? Like just some simple example like mother, teacher, politician, all these are roles of a person, right? In the same way, there will be some roles. Here by from these roles, you are identifying the classes and objects. You are identifying the objects. And there will be some events. Events like interrupting, requesting, all these are events, right? Events like interrupt, requesting, landing, example. So when these events are happening, you are identifying the objects from these events like requesting, interrupting. Okay, there will be some communications, interactions, example meeting. These are just an examples so that you will understand well. So when there is communication in the system, you will identify the objects. So from these things, objects are coming. From these sources, you are identifying the classes and objects. Once again, see the classical approach. Classical approach is driven from classical categorization. What is classical categorization? Here, you are going to classify the things according to property. Next, how you are identifying the classes and objects from tangible things, from roles, from events, from transactions. So sorry, from interactions. Next, let us behavior analysis. Next approach. Next one is behavior analysis. All these are proven approaches in OOA, object oriented analysis. These are the approaches in object oriented analysis. Let us see what is behavior analysis approach. In this approach, what you have to do, you need to identify the behavior of the system or functionality. Behavior is nothing but functionality. Here in behavior analysis, you are going to identify what are the behavior of the system or what are the functionality of the system. You need to identify it. And next, you know that complex system is decomposable into small decomposable into components, right? Complex system is decomposable into components. Again, these components will be decomposable into small subcomponents, right? All this you can consider as objects. Okay, now here see, while there is a communication, for example, I'm speaking with you. While that means there is some communication between you and me, right? So when there is a communication, someone must initiate, right? Here I am speaking, you are listening. That means I am initiating the communication. You are listening. That means you are participating in this communication. Or when you are speaking, I am listening, right? When you are speaking, I have to listen. That means there is a communication between you and me. Okay. So when you are communicating, first you are initiating, right? I am listening and you are speaking. That means you are initiating the communication. I am the participant. I am listening what you are saying. I am listening. Okay. So that means during communication, someone must initiate the communication. Okay. And someone must participate in the communication. You know that all the objects must be interacted with each other, right? So here in behavior analysis, you need to identify the behaviors of the system, and then you need to identify who are the objects which are initiating the objects which are initiating the request. One second. Just one second, please wait. Okay, here you need to understand who are initiating, which object is participating in the communication and which object is initiating the communication. In communication, someone must initiate the communication, right? And someone must participate in the communication, right? So here you need to identify the objects which are communicating with each other, which is initiating the communication and which is participating in the communication. You need to identify in the behavior analysis, and then you need to you need to identify the objects who are which is communicating, which is initiating, and which is participating, and then you need to identify the relationships. You need to identify the relationships between those objects, because those objects are communicating with each other. Here you need to identify the behavior, and you need to identify the who are initiating, which object is initiating, which object is participating in the communication, and what are the relationship between the objects and classes. You need to identify it. Here you are identifying dynamic behavior, dynamic behavior of the objects. I hope you understood what is behavior analysis. Once again, see the PPT. Now, what is the outcome of this behavior analysis? Let us see what is the outcome of behavior analysis. Let us see it. First outcome is you have to record the use of proposed system. That means you are going to identify the functionalities, right? Behavior of the system, right? That you need to record in the script. In behavior analysis, you need to record in the script what is the use of the proposed system. Next, you need to record who are initiating. That means which objects are initiating and which objects are participating. You need to identify. These are the outcome of the behavioral analysis. Next, after that, you need to identify the attributes. Yeah, these are the outcomes. You are going to identify the attributes and behaviors of the objects. That means responsibilities of the object. First one is record use of system. Next, who are initiating, who are participating. Who are initiating and who are participating, you need to record. Next, attributes. Next, responsibilities, behaviors. Responsibilities of object, and then relationships. These are the outcome from the behavioral analysis. This is one of the approach for identifying the objects and classes. I hope you understood. Let us move to the next one. Domain analysis. In domain analysis, what you are going to do is you are going to identify the objects, operations, relationships that are related to particular domain. Okay, you are not identifying the classes and objects of application you are developing. For example, you are developing the application like search engine. Okay, you are developing, this is an application. Okay, to which domain this belongs to? Problem domain. To which domain this search engine belongs to? It belongs to web mining. Now this is a problem domain, this is the domain. Okay, this is the domain. Here in domain analysis, first you need to understand the background knowledge of search engine. Okay, background knowledge, that means domain knowledge on the domain. To which domain this belongs to? Web mining. Web mining means discovering some information. Okay, now you have to understand some knowledge, you have to know some knowledge about web mining. Here you need to identify the classes, you need to identify the classes, you need to identify the objects of web mining which belongs to web mining. Okay, and you need to construct a model, nothing but class structure and object structure. You need to construct the model of the problem domain, not in which belongs to the search engine. Okay, you need to identify the objects and classes of problem domain. That means you need to construct a model, nothing but class structure and object structure. After constructing the model, you need to consult the domain experts. There will be domain experts, web mining domain experts. After, you have to first, you need to understand the domain, right? What is web mining, what are the objects and what are the classes, you can identify it, what are the abstractions, you need to identify it. And next you need to construct a model. After constructing a model, you need to show this model, or you need to consult domain experts. You need to show the model to the domain experts who belongs to web mining, who knows the knowledge of web mining. Okay, after that the domain experts will evaluate the model. The model developed by you will be evaluated by the domain experts. Okay, and then after evaluating the model, what you have to do, you need to study the existing system. There will be some existing methodologies. Those methodologies, first you need to study it. Literature survey. Okay, first you need to study the methodologies of existing system of this problem domain, web mining. And later you need to identify what are the similarities and dissimilarities of the system. You are proposing some system, right? Okay, and then you need to refine the model. Again you need to refine by consulting the domain experts. The domain experts who belongs to web mining, that means they will have some knowledge on web mining. Okay, after they will evaluate it, right? After that, again you need to refine the model. I hope you understood. In domain analysis, you are identifying the classes and objects of the particular domain, not to the application. 1 second. You are identifying the classes of a particular domain only. You are not identifying the classes and objects of particular application you are developing. I hope you understood. Domain analysis, what you are going to do, you are going to generate the model. You are going to generate the model, and you are going to study the existing system methodologies, and you are going to identify the similarities and dissimilarities of the classes, and you need to refine the model. You need to refine the model by consulting domain experts. Let us see next one. I hope you understood it. Next one is use case analysis. In this use case analysis, here you are going to identify the requirements. You are gathering the requirements of the system. or some functionalities. Okay, in use case analysis, what you are going to do, you are going to gather the requirements of the system. You are going to identify some of the functionalities of the system, and then again, after identifying the requirements or after identifying the functionalities of the system, here you need to see, one second, here you need to identify the users who are participating or who are using the system, users who are using the system. And also you need to identify the system with which your developed system is communicating. Okay, you need to identify the users who are participating or who are using the system developed by you. You are developing a system, right? Users will use the system, right? In use case analysis, you need to identify the users. Okay, and you need to identify the systems with which your developed system is communicating. Okay, that you are going to identify. Here you will use some scenarios, nothing but use cases. Use case, about use cases you will study in third unit. At that time you can understand very well. Let us see with an example what is meant by use case. See here, this is a use case diagram. In detail about use case diagram you will learn in third unit. Here now understand what is an use case. See here, this is a use case. Use case is represented by this oval symbol. This is a oval symbol which represent use case. Use case is nothing but it is a description. It is nothing but it is just a description which contains some set of operations. Okay, use case is nothing but it is a description which contains some set of sequential operations. For example, see here, enter pin. Enter pin is a use case. To enter a pin, first you need to enter the pin, right? And then you need to submit. You need to click the enter button, right? So there are some certain operations you are going to do. Next, withdraw funds. Withdraw funds is a use case. There are some certain operations to withdraw it. You need to enter the amount and then you need to submit it. Okay, there are some set of operations involved in it. You are identifying those. These are the requirements of the system. You are identifying those use cases, those scenarios. Deposit funds. Deposit funds is a use case. This is a use case diagram for ATM. Okay, use cases are nothing but those are some descriptions which has some certain operations. To enter a pin, you need to first you need to enter a pin and you need to submit, right? That means there are some sequence of operations involved. To withdraw funds, there are some sequence of operations that are involved. You need to enter the amount. Okay, you need to submit it. There are some sequence of operations. Transfer funds, there are some sequence of operations involved. So these are all use cases. Check balance. Okay, these are some use cases. And in use case analysis, here you are going to identify the user which uses the system. Here account holder. Account holder is a user. Okay, next bank server. This is another system. Okay, here in use case you need to identify the users who are using the system, and also you need to identify the system with which your system will communicate. Here another system is bank server. Okay, here the users and external users and other systems are represented using this symbol. This is an actor, this symbol. Okay, the users represented using this symbol, actor. Actors are nothing but the users which uses the system, and also other system with which your system will communicate. Here ATM software components must communicate with the bank server, right? So you are identifying bank server as an actor, external thing, external system. I hope you understood. Users must be represented as actors. This is a symbol for actor. Represent account holder, user. Okay, external entities you need to represent using actors. Here bank service is a system, external entity. And these are the system use cases. Okay, these are the system use cases. Use case is nothing but some description which contains some set of sequence of operations. You are going to identify those things in use case analysis. About use case diagrams, you will learn in detail. You will learn in detail in third unit. At that time, you will understand. I hope you understood. Now, after identifying the scenarios or after identifying the use cases, what you have to do? Here, you have to go through these use cases in deep. Technically, you need to go through these use cases and you need to identify the classes, objects, responsibilities of objects, how these objects are communicating with each other. You need to go through the use cases. You need to study this one. You need to go through these use cases and you have to identify the classes, objects and responsibilities of classes and objects. I hope you understood use case analysis. Any doubts, students? Any doubts in domain analysis, behavior analysis? Any doubts? Once again, see the behavior analysis. Once again, see behavior analysis. Any doubts, please respond. Domain analysis and use case analysis. Any doubts? Any doubts? Only 26 is responding. Madhavi is responded. Remaining members, any doubts? Shall I continue? Shall I continue? Any doubts? Any doubts in domain analysis, behavioral analysis, and use case analysis? About use cases in detail, you will study in third unit. At that time, you can understand how to draw the diagram, use case diagram. Now you need to understand what are use cases. Okay, I'm continuing. See, this is a use case diagram for ATM. Once again, see the use cases. You will understand what is use case. Use case contains some sequence of operations. You need to identify those things. See here, another use case diagram of library system. Another use case diagram for library management system. See the use cases here. Once see the use cases, you will understand what is meant by use case. About these links, I will discuss in third unit. Here, see, here users are librarian and the member. Okay, librarian and member. Here external actors. Who are external actors? User. Here member, library member and librarian. So here you need to represent them as actors. This symbol, you need to use this actor symbol. External entities. Now see the use cases. Issue book is a use case. So to issue a book, there are some set of operations, right? Some sequence of operations are there. A librarian have to take the account book and then he need to enter the book number and you need to sign all those things, right? There are some sequence of operations. Issue book is an use case. And next, return book. For returning book, the procedure, right? You will return the book. A librarian have to see the book number and you have to sign the sign in your account book, right? All those things. There are some sequence of operations involved. Here written book is a use case. There are some set of operations involved in it, and maintaining book is a use case. Enquiry, all these are use cases. About this include all those things I will discuss in third unit. Now see what are the use cases. Just see what are the use cases. Okay, this is a use case analysis. In use case analysis, you are going to identify the use cases. Use cases are nothing but descriptions where which has some set of operations in it. And you are going to identify the users who uses the system, and also system with which the system is communicating. So external entities you need to represent by using actor symbol. This symbol. I hope you understand this. Now let us see another approach, CRC. Another approach is CRC. Class responsible. One second. CRC cards. One second. Just 1 second, please wait. One second, please wait. Please wait for 1 second. Just okay. See here. CRC, class responsibility collaboration cards. Here these are some index cards. Okay, these are some index cards. Class responsibility collaborator cards are the index cards, where here each card it is divided into 3 sections. First section is class name. Second section contain responsibility of the class, responsibilities, operations or actions or methods, responsibilities of the class. And the next session contains collaborator. That means with which class this class is collaborating, with which class the class is communicating. That class name you need to provide here. Once again, see here, class responsibility collaborator cards are nothing but those are index cards, where each card is divided into 3 sections. First section contain class, second section contain responsibility, third section contains class name. That means which class, with which class the class is collaborating, communicating. I hope you understood. Let us see with an example, you will understand well. See example, see this example, CRC card. See, this is a student CRC card. Here, what is the class name? This is a class name. First section contains class name. Next, these are the attributes and responsibilities of student. Student contains student number, student contain name, student contain address, student contain phone number. These are the actions or responsibilities. Enroll in a seminar, drop a seminar, request for transcripts. These are some of the responsibilities of the student. In this second section, you need to write some responsibilities. Now, see the third section. What is the third section? Seminar. Seminar is a class. Here, student class need to communicate with the seminar class. Why student need to communicate with the seminar class? Because student has to enroll in the seminar, right? Student has to enroll in a seminar. If student wants to drop a seminar, so there must be some communication with the seminar class. To enroll a seminar, to drop a seminar, student class must communicate with seminar class. This is a collaborator class. Here you need to write the class name with which student is communicating. I hope you understood. Student is communicating with seminar in order to enroll for seminar, in order to drop for a seminar. This is a collaborator class. Now let us see Seminar class. Let us see seminar class. See the seminar class. See the seminar class. This is a class name. This is a class name. Seminar is a class name. What are the attributes and methods? See here. Name of the seminar, seminar number, fees, waiting list, enrolled student. For seminar, there will be instructor, right? Instructor, add a student. All these are some of the attributes and responsibilities of seminar. Now, in order to see here, one second, see here, this seminar is communicating with student. Why this seminar is communicating with student? If a student wants to enroll in a seminar, student class must communicate with seminar, right? That means seminar class is communicating with student, okay? For enrolling for seminar, for dropping a seminar. And seminar is communicating with professor. Seminar class is communicating with professor class. Why it is communicating with professor class? Because for every seminar, there will be some instructor, right? So this seminar class must know who are the instructors. Okay. So this seminar class must be communicated with professor class. I hope you understood. CRC cards. CRC cards are nothing but those are some index cards which represent class name, responsibilities, and the class which is collaborating with it. Collaborating means class which is communicating with that class. This is meant by CRC. I hope you understood. Next, structural analysis. Let us see structural analysis. In structural analysis, you need to identify data flow diagrams. Data flow diagrams. Data flow diagrams are nothing but which represents the flow of data. Which represents flow of data. Flow of data in the system. That means you need to identify what are the inputs to the system. What are the output of the system. You need to identify those inputs and outputs. And you need to identify how this data will be flowed in this, how this data will be processed in the system. You need to identify the flow of data in the system. That means you need to draw the data flow diagrams. See the example. This is a data flow diagram for ticket booking system. In data flow diagram, these rectangle symbols represent external entities. External entities like users, other systems, okay? External entities. And this circle represents some process. In data flow diagram, this rectangle represents some external entities like users. And this or system. And this, okay, external users only. And this process and this circle represents some process, some set of operations. See here, this is the data flow diagram for ticket booking system. Here passenger will see the diagram. See the diagram, you'll understand. Financial report from the ticket booking system. Okay. See how data will be flowed from the system. That means what are the inputs of the system and what are the outputs of the system. You can see, right, what are the inputs and what are the outputs. Manager is getting some financial report. Passenger is getting ticket. He is booking some ticket, right? He is getting the ticket. It's nothing but data flow in the system. What are the inputs? What are the outputs? Who will get the input? Who will get the output? How the system will process it? Just you can see from this data flow diagram. Structural analysis is nothing but you need to draw some data flow diagrams. You need to identify the input and outputs, how data will be flowed, how data will be processed in the system. You need to identify this. Here passenger is getting some ticket in input and output is financial report. It is generating some financial report to the manager. Now let us see other example. Data flow diagram of ATM. Okay, this is a data flow diagram for ATM. See, rectangle symbol represents some external entities like users, client, and also bank database system. Okay, here ATM, it is a process. There will be some set of operations, right? ATM will do some set of operations. Here circle represents some process. Here see the inputs from this data flow diagram. You can see the inputs and outputs. See the inputs. Client will insert card into ATM. Next, insert pin code. Next, ATM will validate the pin code. Next, client will choose the amount. Next, ATM will, what it will do? Request information about bank account. Information will be retrieved from the data. It will be given to the ATM, and ATM will release the amount from the client bank account. That means money will be deducted from the account. I hope you understood. Here data flow diagram is nothing but here you will understand what are the inputs, what are the outputs, how data will be flowed in the system. That means how data will be how data will be processed in the system. You can see clearly. You need to draw these data flow diagrams in order to understand the process of data, how data is processing in the system. This is structural analysis. In the next class, let us see key abstractions and mechanisms. This is the last topic. Your second unit will be completed after this topic. This is only topic remaining in your second unit, key abstractions and mechanisms. In tomorrow's class, I will discuss these key abstractions and mechanisms. With this topic, your second unit will be completed. Only one topic is remaining. I request all the students to please read textbook and also my material. First read the material, you will understand the things, and then you can go to the textbook for extra knowledge. Any doubts? Any doubts in behavior analysis, domain analysis, use case analysis, CRC cards, structural analysis? If there are any doubts, please respond. I will explain again. See, about use case diagrams, you will learn in third unit. At that time, you will understand well, okay? Just now here, you will see what are use cases only. No need to see the relationships. Just to see what are use cases so that you will understand what is a use case for the system. In third unit, we will study about use case diagrams, all those things. How to draw these diagrams, what are the relations, all these we will study in third unit. You will study in third unit, you will learn in third unit. At that time, you can understand well. Any doubts, students? So here is my question. In structural analysis, what you are going to do? Number 48. Please unmute and speak. Number 48. In structural analysis, what you are going to do? Just now I have explained. 48. Yes. In structural analysis, you are going to identify data flow diagrams. Very good. Who is that? 26 responded. 48. 48. 48, please respond. Very good, Madhavi. Identifying data flow diagrams. Please give your answer, 48. You're saying yes, ma'am, and you're not giving answer. What is meant by data flow diagram? 48. Please give your answer. What is meant by data flow diagram? 48. 20. Number 20. Flow of data in the system. Yes. Data flow diagram represents the flow of data in the system. That means what are the inputs of the system? Inputs given to the system. What are the outputs from the system? How the data is processed. Okay. In structural analysis, you are going to draw the data flow diagram so that you will understand how data is processed in the system. Next, here is my question. In use case analysis, what you are going to do? In use case analysis, what you are going to do? In use case analysis, anyone, please answer my question. 26, Madhavi. Identify requirements. Yes, you need to identify the requirements. That means functionalities, and then you need to what is that? You need to use cases. Okay, use cases are nothing but system functionalities, right? You are capturing some requirements. What is a use case? What is the definition of use case? See here, all these are use cases, right? Enter PIN is a use case. Withdraw funds is a use case. Deposit funds is a use case. All these are use cases. System requirements or some functionalities of the system. What is meant by use case? Anyone? Yes, Kavya, very good. Description which contains a set of operations. 26, Madhavi. Description which contains set of. Very good, Madhavi and Kavya. Yes, very good. Use case is nothing but which contains some sequence of events or some sequence of operations. To enter the PIN, there will be some sequence of operations, right? So for withdrawal, there will be some sequence of operations. You need to identify all those things. Very good. Next, in domain analysis, what you have to do? Anyone? In domain analysis, what you are going to do? Domain analysis. Anyone? Identify objects, operations, and relationships. Yes, very good. Number 19. Yes, you are going to identify the objects. You are going to identify the operations and relationships of problem domain. Okay. You are going to model. Yes. You are going to design a model of problem domain. Okay. By consulting some, yes, a particular domain. Yes, very good. You are going to identify the objects, classes, relationships of particular domain. Okay. You need to consult the domain experts. After designing, you need to consult the domain experts. Domain experts will evaluate the model designed by you. Okay, next. In classical approach, what are the sources where you can identify the classes and objects? What are the sources from which the classes and objects are coming? Here is my question. What are the sources? Sources, I'm asking. Classical approach. See here. Classical approach. Classical approach. What are the sources? From which, what are the sources from which classes and objects are identifying? Very good, Kavya. Tangible. Roles. Okay, there will be some roles. There will be some events. Very good. Very good, Madhavi, Kavya, Sindhu. Very good. Yes, see, there will be some tangible things, physical things. Example, car, CPU, all those things. You will identify from this, you are identifying the objects. There will be some roles. From this, you are identifying the objects. There will be some events like interrupting, requesting. There will be some events. From these events, you are identifying the objects. There will be some communication, right? Interactions. From these interactions, you are identifying the objects. I hope you understood. Okay, next class I will only there is only one topic remaining. In next class I will discuss that. Your second unit will be completed by the next class. Please read material and textbook of second unit. Any doubts? Students, any doubts? Okay. No doubts? Okay, thank you. Madam? Ma'am, Bhavani ma'am? Ma'am, Bhavani madam?